Hey, what is good? So, what an exciting way to start off the year. Just based off of social media, it looks like a lot of traders are waiting until Monday, January 5th. But one of the things that I have loved about the last week of December, or even the last 2 weeks of December, was that what it came down to or reinforced for me is just if the strategy is there, then I can take it. And I know the second to last Monday, I believe it was, or Tuesday of December, um, or was it the last week in December? Anyways, it was one of those days. And I remember, no, it was the last week. So the Monday, um, one of the people on social media, she's like, "Oh, I made like X amount of bands," and I was frustrated because I was like, I don't see the play now. Mind you, I think that Monday it had tanked, and I remember I did take a losing trade, but I felt like it was definitely a FOMO move because it did not match my setup. And so part of my post market analysis for that day and just my personal journaling was that I have to be comfortable with accepting that I'm not gonna have every um, strategy for every single day. If I had stuck to my rules, there was a play that played out later in the day that I could have made my profit off of. And then also just processing the emotions that felt like, oh my gosh, I'm really missing out because I felt like for how much it had moved, there's something that I should have seen, but end of the day, it just wasn't. And then later in the week, she reported like a red day when that was like an A plus setup for, everything panned out the way that I like to trade my strategy. So just kind of reinforce like the importance of sticking to your strategy. So that being said, and even me talking about, well, some traders are waiting until Monday the 5th. Um, I went into Friday, just the Friday, the first day of the 2026. And this was, I wouldn't say a game changer, but it just really helped to bolster my confidence of how to move forward for the year, especially for how we ended the end of 2026 too. And seeing days that my strategy played out and days that it didn't and being comfortable with it. Um, I had a 2 week vacation and then Friday we had a half day. And I was just grateful to have 2 weeks off because my previous job before that, it was kind of like no rest for the wicked. So I was thankful because I also knew that the half day was going to help me just kind of test what I needed to have in place to, start the week again and get back into a routine versus like trying to start a work week. So, but with that being said, I had a very hard time going to sleep that night, even though I went to bed relatively early. And so instead of waking up at 4 like I normally do, even when I was on vacation, I was waking up at 4. I took 2 days off or whatever, right? So I was kind of slept in. And then um, um, when it was finally time for me to, like my last alert to like snooze, I was like, let me just look at TradingView because this might not even be a trading day. Last month, I also got reinforcement on what a day looks like on liquidity based on the 1 hour time frame. And baby, let me tell you, I opened up my trading view on my phone and I saw this 1 hour gap and I was like, oh, hell yeah. If I had even seen this like maybe at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock when I'm supposed to wake up, if I had seen that, that would have definitely lit some fire under my butt. Like, okay, you know what, girl, it's gonna be half day. But we gonna get this money when we see that 1 hour gap. We're gonna eat. Okay, so, so that's what we had for today. Um, One of the things about post market analysis is that It can look a little bit messy, but one of the things I said I wanted to do was actually make this smaller, and I thought I had made it small enough. Oh wow. Let me see. Yeah, we don't need it all the way over here. We just need it to like maybe like what here. So that will help a little bit. So let's do that. um, so for this one, we did have a. Let me just make sure. So this is Friday. Okay, yeah, and this is already going into post-market analysis. And maybe even the 15-minute time frame. No, let's just stick to the 3-minute time frame because that's what we're going to be trading off of, and I want you guys to be able to look at it in via the time frame that we use anyways. So, oh my gosh, did I just move it so far back that okay, just bear with me. My computer is like it's the weekend. I don't feel like it was a little sluggish this morning, so I just need to restart it. But anyways, we had the 1 hour gap. I talked about that in the pre-market analysis component. And then I do apologize if it looks like really crowded right now, but it just is what it is. Once this internal breakout came out, I marked it because when we come back and look at this as a group, I want to have it available. That being said, this didn't appear until 7:15. Ideally, I like to have it come up much earlier, like right at open. Um, that being said, if you had taken it, you would have had a pretty good move to the downside. Okay. Um, right when market opened, because I know how IWM has acted in the past too, I have seen price come down to the very top of the gap and then bounce. So I remember I was cautioning whoever was listening um, that uh, we should prepare for a little bit of a bounce. There was something I saw right before market open too, that if you look at the pre-market analysis or beginning of the live, y'all, it's just something like I've done content creating before, and it's gonna take me a little bit of time before, but it's just something about when I start recording, like I just start clearing my throat a little bit more. So I just need to push past it a little bit, but that's kind of what's going on right now. Perfectly fine. It's just so I knew that the market was going to, based off of what I saw, I was like, okay, let's just prepare for a little bit of a upward move. And part of the psychology behind it, I guess, it's not really psychology, but part of the MO for how institutions work is they like, if they know they're going to go to the downside, they're going to look for a discount level to where they can get in and really get that really clean move down. So that's what we saw. They came up here, which was the bottom of the 1 hour bearish order block that we had. And then I decided to jump in once I saw the strong wick that selling pressure was in and that we were pushing below this resistance level. And I decided to risk it for the biscuit. I got a contract for $52. So I was kind of like looking at the price in between that too. I got, a lot of you know that I like to look at entry around $50. Sometimes, we'll get better sniper entries, but um, $50, and then I went ahead and set my contract to exit me at $65. Part of it too is because when I was talking you guys through it, which is about, it was like a 28%, 28 to 30% return. But for one, IWM, for whatever reason, institutions like to take profit at $65. So, and because I still have a small account, I just wanted to protect my capital and my mental and that type of thing. But also another thing that I talked about was not only did we have a little bit of a bounce here, but we also had this major level right here, this 200 moving average. And so right when my contract hit $65, it had started to bounce just a little bit off of here, but then it continued to fall to the downside. And by the time it got to here, we got to one return like somewhere around here, and then by the time we got down here, down to here, it went from $50 to $106, right? So that would have given you your one-to-one return, and at that point you would have had your runners. Um, I was already out of the trade too, and one of the things I talked about in the live was that one of the things IWM, and you can kind of see how it played out over the long term. It will fill this gap and then just skyrocket like nobody's business out of it. And I think that's what it attempted to do here. But you can kind of see like exactly where the gap is. That's where people started to like exit their trades. We had a little bit of a retest. We rejected this pivot level and we decided to try to go for more downside. Um, and so I did delete. I'm gonna delete this just for a second, but I'm gonna put it back on. We had data drop at 6:45. It was PMI, and so you can see this wick here. Now another important thing is we had this major higher time frame level, the bottom of the 4-hour bullish order block, and I said if price breaks below this, we definitely have more downside, but IWM likes 50% of everything, so usually it will try to bounce, and you can see it on the gap here. I'll try to remember to point that out too. I know it looks like a lot, and I promise like it's not that crowded when you're looking at it live. Um, but the bottom of this 4-hour order block, I also had 50% of the 4-hour bullish order block here. And you can see like later on it kind of bounced off of this and decided to go up. Um, and so usually when price comes down into the bottom half of a bullish order block, it's trying to decide if it's going to invalidate it or if it's going to fill up orders for us to go for a stronger move to the upside. So that's kind of what you saw here, where it went to the bottom of this 4-hour order block and it was like, yeah, no, we're going to stay in that range. Came back, picked up some more orders between this 50% right here and here, picked up some orders here. And then if you saw later on, we kind of just kept filling up orders in that 4-hour order block. Looks like we're trying to build momentum to go to the upside. Other thing too, 50% of this order block, of this gap, it already has a line. But for those of you who will be with me in the future, you'll even see here, anytime I make a dialog box, it's going to give a 50% level. And I decided to add that to my dialog boxes because IWM is a 50-50 girl. We might not be IRL, but IWM she's 50-50 of everything, honey. 50-50 of equilibrium, 50-50 of discount levels, 50-50, 50% of premium levels, 50% of fair value gaps, 50% of previous candle, 50% of gaps, all of it, right? And so you can even see here too, it lines up with, I was looking, I think it was at the 1 hour, no, I think it was like the 1 day candle. And I could see that that was going to be a bounce level. And it just so happens to line up with 50% of the gap. Was there anything? Oh, another thing. So I remember at this point, when we got to like right here, so what time is, so 7:15. I remember that, okay, so yeah, 7:15. At this point I was watching it and I started to tell you guys I feel like we're starting to get into consolidation, or you're about to get liquidated a little bit, because even though this came up, the best way you can explain it is that we hadn't effectively broken out of this range. We made an attempt to go to the downside again, and I remember, like, I have these levels. There's a reason I have these lines. They're there for a reason, and I feel like part of just even me recording this is so that my past self is just cheering me on for real, because I don't want to be delusional and feel like, okay, yeah, this came up, but we're going to just take puts to nobody's business. Like, the psychology behind this is that no, there's green support here, there's green support here. Expect a level. And so, sometimes like this could be like a darker, bolder, because it's 4 hours, so it's stronger. But sure enough, you saw that strong reaction here off the 4 hour, and again here off of the bottom of the 4 hour. And so I remember just feeling a little bit apprehensive, but I made the joke, and this will probably be one of the running jokes in the community. But I know there's going to be times where traders are going to try to force stuff, or I'm going to say, you know what? I know that we see some things for a setup, but you got to tell Diddy no. There's going to be times where I'm going to be like, y'all, this is not the most strongest move. Um, Another reason, too, I said that I was kind of apprehensive about it was because, for one, it was Friday as well. So you have to take all of these things into consideration. But Fridays, institutions like to get in and out. And we need to start thinking more like institutions on where we take our entries, and how we operate. So if institutions like to be in and out early on Fridays, guess what? That's what we're doing too. And if they like it, I love it. And I remember saying, like, look, we already got our 1-to-1 return here. And I was like, even though I was relishing in just getting it out of my trade, and I was confident I'm not jumping back in, because I've learned, like, if I'm green, even though it feels like I'd rather just sit on my green, start the year strong, and build my muscle to hold trades longer. But I already got my green. I already trusted that it moves from 50 to 65. Get that and get it over with, and then just sit pretty for the rest of the trade to play out. But I remember I was like, they already got their 1-to-1 here. They got their 1-to-1 here. Yes, this is playing out, but I don't know that volume is on your side. We were almost 1 hour out, and so, and then I didn't track it because, like I said, I was kind of done for the day. But I don't know. You probably could have gotten like a good 30% move right here if you're just trying to manage your risk. You know. Another thing that was interesting to me that I wanted to point out to you guys, is learning how to like get past the noise of the signals, because um, when I was at work, I saw this and I just thought it was so fascinating that, come on, computer. I know it looks so busy right now. That's just wild to me. But there was something I saw here in the log, and it was showing, like, I think, oh, here we go. I think it was like 12:44. And it was showing puts confluence. And the thing about that is, just because a signal comes up, it when especially like how that says confluence, that means it's in support of. So This puts confluence would have been good if you had like um an internal breakout, an order block, or a fair value gap to the downside, right? Or the trend was like bearish. Like if I had seen this come up, and price was down here, then I'd been like, oh yeah, we be finishing the day red or whatever. But 1244, that was right here. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to talk about this. Um, because I saw this and I remember looking at my chart, like my phone alert went off and I was at work and I was like, oh, let me just look at it. I don't recommend trading past 8:30 point blank period. And I think that even for me, by the time it's 7:15, yeah, I need to go to work. I love looking at charts and stuff like that too, but we need to have like hard walkaways. As soon as we get that one or two trades, let's be done for the day, go work out, get ready for work, get dolled up, go about your business, spend time with the family, kids, whatever all else you have going on. Um, and those have been lessons that I've had to pay for in blood, in tears, in disappointment, in just disappointment, in disappointment, in disappointment, in disappointment. Right? Ain't nothing for me on this side. Like even like yeah, you can have that 11 o'clock move, but even the volume is so small that it's just not worth it. Especially like when you pass over where you've had a green trade, like it's there's something called diminishing returns, right? So you have people that will say, "Ooh, I made yada 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 XYZ amount in like 2 minutes." Yeah, you probably looked at the chart and were on the chart for anywhere for like an hour. Let's say 50 minutes to an hour. Like this trade that we had this morning, we were done by. Let me look at my. Let me look at my notes. We were done by 6:36, baby. 6 minutes into the market, you would have gotten your one-to-one return. So diminishing returns is like, are you really willing to wait? Mind you, all this time you're getting chopped and screwed up in that range, right? To wait for, I guess power hour starts at 11 or 12. Wait for this setup, and just your mental capital has to be drained because at this point you're getting just chopped and screwed. I say all of this to say I'm not really a fan of you trading past 8:30. Don't do it. Um, it's just not worth it. Like I said, because even if there is quote unquote what looks like a good setup, the volume is just really not there, especially on Fridays. And are there going to be days this year where it can feel like, oh my gosh, if I had held, I would have been up 6,000%, blah, blah, blah. Yep. But on the grander scheme of things, just have to be prepared for that. So, that being said, it did give me an opportunity to kind of point something out here too. When we see these alerts, it's so funny to me how much growth I've had. Also, these alerts to me are just like the wind beneath my wings in the sense of like, they give me support, but I remember at one point, like I even turned off the volume, the sound on these because they used to be going off like in the background, just and it would have me jumpy and then second guessing myself. Whereas now, even though I have them on the side, I've trained myself to just look for the higher time frame stuff or just kind of look for confirmation. But that also being said, just because the alert goes off, and that's why I have step 2 and 3, if you don't see a step 1 on here and you see step 2, step 3 or confluence and there's nothing to support that, then you shouldn't be taking that, right? So here we had this go off at 1244. 1244. But if you're looking at this, you would have known immediately that this hadn't formed yet. This internal breakout thing hadn't formed yet. So this was just a standalone alert. This came up later because I remember when I looked at it, it didn't have the internal breakout. Yeah, it's not. And I remember I looked at 1137. Yeah, so this hadn't popped up yet, which would make it ideal. So ideally, you'd want to see this. You'd want to see an order block or a fair value gap, and it was just a standalone. So yes, we did have a breakup structure. And before I even saw this, I was like, yeah, that's not a valid signal. And that's just something that's going to come with time and experience and learning, understanding how IWM moves. But sure enough, so 1244, this alert goes off. It's not that the alert doesn't work. Yes, it is lagging, but it's not building the foundation. It's not following the setup. Like when I started the live this morning, I was talking about the gap is setting us up. It's like a layup. It's an assist. Like you're getting strong confirmation. Whereas with this, it was just standing by itself. It's just alone. So I think those are like the major takeaways for today. I'm gonna like say I'm zooming out. And now I did move um the gap thing here. I can move it over just so you guys can kind of see what ended up happening for the rest of the day. That being said, this is, I'm not surprised that we continue to go to the upside. I think that, there's several things in consideration that are going on right now, right? So I think you get the point, but I wanted you to see this and I'm going to move it back to where it was. And then we're going to close out. So I've talked about how just based off of experience, um, the thing about gaps is that for the most part, they kind of operate closely to how order blocks operate, and from what I've observed. So literally, and we talked about this, especially at the live, where I was like, yeah, you guys, I have seen this. When I saw this, I was like, there's a possibility we might roar up to the top, up to the upside. But we had failed attempts. Also, we had a 1 hour order block that had formed, a bearish order block that had formed pre-market to the downside. So it had to go and process that, right? It had to process this 1 hour order block. So there was a little bit of chop going on there. Um, but if remember how I talked about how IWM likes 50% of like everything, you even see it with the gap, right? So this is the gap that was formed right here. And this, let me take this off. Let me take this off. See, so this is the plot, the gap, and it has 50% level marked off right there. Look at how price engaged with that, right? So we kept coming back to that 50% level. We tapped it 1, 2, 3 times, and then decided to go to the upside. Um, are there times where price will fall through? Yeah. I think another thing that I'm looking at here, part of post-market analysis, is this. When we see another gap again, too, I mean, if you want to kind of, count it as confluence, um, this would have probably popped up somewhere like around here. And I'm saying here because every time you have like one of these type setups, you're gonna have drawdown, and that's just, oh, another thing I wanted to add to that was important. You're gonna have institutions looking for entry. Oh, two more things. So we talked about how it went to 50% of the gap. Another thing, This today had a lot of gems, not just in the live, but what's happening. So PMI, we had data at 6:45, and the forecast for the data was 51.8. And sure enough, the data came in at 6:45. I'm thinking it was right here. No. Okay, I had taken it off. Don't want to put it back on. I'll put it back on after I'm done recording because my computer is lagging right now. So 6:45. I want you to see it. I was gonna talk about it when I took off but you see this right here. I'm all pointing at it with my regular finger. You see this wick right here? That's when data dropped. And I know it had to be frustrating for some people because it feels like, well, the data came in exactly as it was forecasted. They forecasted it at 51.8. It came in at 51.8. That's positive data. So with PMI, if it's above 50, then that means that the market is expanding. That's positive. We're optimistic, right? If it comes in below 50, then that means that the market is contracting and we have fear. We're have a more negative perspective. So, but what happened is, and I talked about it in the live, was that don't panic, um, because what I know about IWM is that yes, there's this gap that we can flip to the upside, and but I said institutions are looking for. It's like this. It's like saying, think of it like them trying to get discounts, right? So if IWM likes 50% of everything, institutions that like trade IWM, they love buying everything at discounts. Like they're cheap. They love buying everything at like discounted rates. Like, oh, you can, yeah, we're bullish, but like, how cheap can we get this contract, bro? So that's what happened here. They looked for a great place to enter, and what better place to enter than previous day low? Which previous day low by itself as a strategy, there's people who were just hungry to get off of that. There's different players. Players come in at different strategies and stuff, and because I'm familiar with so many of them, I'm like, oh, okay, the orbers are now in play, pivot players are now in play, um, the people who play off of VWAP are now in play, yada yada yada, right? So not only does this previous day low come into play, but remember that we had this 4 hour bullish order block to the upside. So they literally came to the bottom half and decided we're gonna fill up like orders like super cheap because usually, when it comes to order blocks, we like to stay in the top 50% and then bounce up. But if they want like a deep discount and they're trying to get positions for Monday, they came deep into that order block. A couple of times, you had the people that waited for the retest of this, and then that's where you saw that we stayed above 50% of this gap, but also 50% of this um, bullish order block. You see it right here. I mean, these people waited for triple confirmation, right? And guess what? If they did it here, they're going to do it again, you know? Um, so, yeah, that was that. What was another thing I wanted to say too? So, I wanted to talk about, yeah, 6:45, we had data drop that they were looking for entry. So, it's not. So even what I was trying to say is, even though the data came out positive, and you're like, why is it tanking? I'm about to get no. They're looking for where to buy for entry. Um, I feel like I'm forgetting one other thing. Um, but yeah, I think the only other thing, if I didn't already stress it enough to, is if you wanted to, next time you see a gap. Oh yeah, okay. So this is what reminded me. If we see another gap again, and we see this, This is gonna be kind of like support, like, hey babe, we love this for you. We love the idea of going up. And then maybe you can consider doing like a swing trade, especially like this would have come up like around mm, minutes to 8, right? So usually what happens is this will pop up and then you'll be like, I have gotten clapped so many times on this, and I'm like, well, I know this is bullish. I would say, well, I know this is bullish, and I would jump in, immediately liquidated, frustrating, liquidated, because I mean, it's like, well, panic, whatever, and then it, whatever. But now we have learned when we see this, we wait for the retest. Yes, it will play around. VWAP, it loves, IWM loves to bounce or interact a lot with VWAP. Um, I would say at certain levels, the fast CMA in the 200. Um, there was something else I wanted to say about this. I'm tired, you guys. I was determined to get my 10, 12,500 steps in today. Plus, I'm doing 75 soft. And I think I'm starting, but there's so many gems in here today. And I think even as I'm creating content, I have to remember I cannot give all of the gems in one, even if I wanted to, which I'm attempting to. But like today's live trade and this post market analysis is so information rich. Um, and so I'm just gonna respect that I'm tired. I've poured out so much already. I think I've hit like so many of the major key takeaways. The opportunity will come up again. Um, I feel like this is gonna bother me at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it's okay. Um, yeah, I feel like there was something else I wanted to say about this level, but it's just not coming to me. All right, so I hope that this was helpful. Um, the pre-market, the live market stuff, I do the pre-market analysis in the morning, and then but the gems, those are I'm finding like the post-market analysis. I want to encourage you if you haven't already done so. You should have been journaling intraday trade, and then I did a podcast. Like I feel like everybody has those big A wall calendars or whatever, which reminds me I need to. I'll do it tomorrow. I don't see myself getting out of bed um, after this, but on my desk calendar, um, I did put for Friday that the play for today was 1 hour gap. I put that price move from 50 to $1 plus, um, and then I put that price um, drop that then bounced off of the 4 hour order block bottom, and I put that we had PMI 645, and I put the end of day we skyrocketed up. So don't worry, I have like shorthand language. I kind of developed the um, codes for myself to fit everything into a little box, but it follows the same flow and structure. Um, is there anything else when it comes to journaling? Yeah, no, just journal. And I look forward to trading out with you guys on Monday live, no later than 6:15 Pacific Standard Time. And I will catch you guys on the flip side. Bye.